This will be tutorial 7, Shape Tweening, create a new action script 3.0. And once again, you want to make sure that we have the correct settings. We want this to be 1280 by 720, and we want to use 12 frames per second. And I will turn on autosave so it won't ask questions. Fit it in the window. Now, shape tweening can be very useful. Shape tweening will work best on shapes that have the same number of points and have a similar volume. A good example is taking a W and changing it to an M, or an M and changing it to a W. So now we want to save this, File, Save, and we want to make sure it's going into tutorials, and this will be 07tutorial with your initials. Save that. Select the text tool. And now we'll set the properties. This time we're going to make it very big because it's only going to be one letter in the middle. So we want Helvetica, because Helvetica is a sans serif font, and if you use bold, it has a really nice shape. It's big, it's blocky, so that it has fewer points, and therefore it will be easier to tween it. Style bold, because we want it to be nice and bold. Size, let's make it 360 point. And everything else is fine. Command S. Turn on your caps lock and come into the middle and type the letter W. Get your selection tool, select your W, go to Align, and align it to the stage. Align it horizontally and vertically. Okay, Command S. Now select it again. Press Command B to make it a shape. You only have to do it once because it's a single letter. Save that. Now go to frame 30. And on frame 30, I want you to press F7. This will insert an empty keyframe, and it will also add frames between. On this empty keyframe, get your text tool and come out in the middle, and now you want to type the letter M. Once again, get your selection tool, make sure you're selected, Command B to break it apart, and then you want to use your Align palette. Make sure it's aligning to stage and align it vertically and horizontally so it's right in the middle. Now if you turn on Marker Range All, turn on your onion skinning, and you can see that they are close but not exactly lined up. Let's make sure that that's center, center. Go back to W and make sure it's lined center, 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 center. There we go. Okay, if you've aligned it while it's still text, it won't line up. We want to make sure they line up because this is very important. We're going to be using this shape tween, and since there are so many things that can affect the shape tween, it's a good idea to try to remove all the variations before you tween, and once you get it tweened, you can start making gentle changes. But let's start with it very simple right now. Now, if you right-click in between, you can create Shape Tween. And you can see, we'll turn off the onion skinning, and if you press return, you can see it tween. And the shape tweens, and it does it by figuring out which points are the nearest, and it goes ahead and tries to move everything in that direction. But if you don't want it to tween the way that it does automatically, then you can add shape hints. Notice once again the tween is green for shape tweening. It's blue for motion tweening, green for shape tweening, and purple for classic tweening. Now, shape hints, you can modify shape, add shape hint, but notice that the keyboard shortcut is Shift-Command-H. Shift-Command-H, much easier because you have to add multiple hints. So let's add 4 shape hints by holding down Shift and Command and pressing H 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shape hints work best if you use as few as possible, if you place them in either clockwise or counterclockwise order, and don't change in the middle. And if you make very sure to line up the original point as closely as possible to the end point in space. So I'm going to place these starting at the bottom, and since the last letter appears on top, I'm going to place the last letter down at the bottom corner. C I will put at the bottom right hand corner, the B at the upper right hand corner, and the A at the upper left hand corner. So it starts alphabetically at the upper left hand corner. A, B, C, D. Now go to the last frame. You notice there's already some points here because you have, for a shape tween, you have to have a start point that has a corresponding end point with the same letter on it. This is why you want to choose the point on the end shape that is pretty close to the point on the beginning shape. You don't want to stretch the mind of the computer too much. You can get very confused. D, C, B, A. Now you notice they've turned green because once you have made a completed shape tween, the points turn green. They're red before it's complete. So here's the first point turns yellow and the last point turns green. And you see that's a much better change, but it's still not really what we want, is it? It looks a little odd. If we hit enter, you see it does this odd little strange thing in the middle. We don't like that. So remove all shape hints, modify shape, remove all hints. Now we want to put an intermediate shape in between here. I'm going to F7 to put in an empty keyframe. I'm going to select the shape tool. I'm going to make sure that I have a stroke that has no stroke color, and I want to use the same blue. I'm going to turn on my onion skin, and I'm going to draw a box that takes the same, basically it's the same amount of space. Now, I can make it slightly smaller, but I want to try to keep it as wide as the M. So let's make it the same shape as the M as a square. Okay. So now it's a completed shape tween again, and if we turn off the onion skinning, you can see it's still odd, but it's a little bit closer. So now let's try shape hints again. Now for each tween span, you must have a set of shape hints. That means we have to put shape hints in on number 1 and position them on 15. Then we have to put on more shape hints on number 15 and position them, and then position them on 30. So remember that. If you have a shape tween that goes through 2 keyframes, or it goes through 3 keyframes, you have to put in 2 sets of shape hints. So hold down Shift, Command, H, H, H. Whoops, one more, H. And now drag them down to the corners. Make sure that you go in the same order that you did originally. Make sure that the corresponding corner is being used. Don't go to a different corner. Now we want to go Shift Command H, 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 H. And line them up with the first set. Go to the end there. Okay, now let's see how that looks. There, that's much better, much better. And now I want to Command S to save it, Command Return to output. And there you see that's a much better tween. So shape hints can be very helpful. Sometimes they become unlinked. Then you have to remove them and you have to put them back in again. The easiest way to make sure that you don't have trouble with shape hints is to control the number of points in the beginning and end shape. Always make sure that you don't have a shape that has interior-exterior shapes. If you do, you have to break it into layers. Do each layer separately. So, solid color, 1 shape shapes, tween best. Shapes that have the fewest number of points possible, tween best. And make sure that you put in as few shape hints as possible, because the more shape hints you put in, the more likely it is that the computer will get confused. So that's my advice to you for shape hints and for shape tweens.